Hi. So in this video I want to go through all of the buildings that are available to you, from the very first building, the main hall, all the way up to the larger super buildings like the factory and your transport hubs and such like. So once you've placed your main hall, you're then going to get all of your people to go out and start gathering resources. You'll then start to expand your city or your new civilization using new resources that you can gather and building new buildings based on the research that you've done in the tech trees. Obviously, the higher the technology you reach, the bigger and more technological the buildings are available to you that you're going to build. And you'll steadily increase the size of your whole city until in the end you're going to have something that's going to be quite large and quite difficult to manage. So I'm going to take you through each of the different parts of the game that you'll use to manage these and get to this point. And again, as I say, in this video we're just basically going to start looking at the buildings. So when you start your first new game, you'll only have one building available to you. Now the bar here at the center down at the bottom of the screen is gives you access to all of the buildings that are available for you to build throughout the game. You can see it's split into 5 sections: residential, resources, production, utilities and logistics. These are the 5 different groups of type of building that you can build. So if we have a look here, if we click on residential, what happens is you'll see a pop-up. Now it doesn't matter which one we click on, that pop-up will appear, but obviously it will show buildings for that particular section of a group of buildings that are available. So you can see in all of them, bar residential, they're all empty, and the only thing we have is this main hall. This is basically the hub or the center of your new city. So I'm just going to drop this anywhere. In the second video where I talk about building your first little settlement, I talk about planning on where to put this, but for now we just want it built. Once we've built it, if we then click on resources, you can see now we've got 3 buildings that are actually available to us. And then if you click on residential, you can see there are 2 buildings there, but neither of them have been researched, and so we can't build any of them. Same thing as we go through, the lumber mill is available, but the soup kitchen isn't. Stockpile is not available, and the road is available, but it requires some resources. So as you progress through the game, you do your research and development, you gather more resources, more and more buildings become available to you. So what I'll do is now I'm going to show you all the buildings that will be available, and I'm also going to show you the different tiers of buildings that will be available. So when we click the bar and it opens up, the pop-up comes up so we can see what other buildings. What you'll notice at the bottom on the left hand side, it's got these tier listings, these tier tabs, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There are no tier 4 buildings at present in the game, so that's just redundant at the moment. And obviously as you develop your technology, different buildings of different levels will become available. So as I go through each group of buildings, I shall go through all of the different menu options and the properties of the buildings, so you can see what resources they require to build, what each building does. I'll flick through the menus quickly, and if you want to read them in detail, you can just pause the video and then look through it at your leisure. So the first group of buildings here we've got are residential. So we've got the shack, tavern, medical shed and the store. Tier 2 buildings, we've got a residence, infirmary, pub, guardhouse, and then tier 3 is just the apartment complex. So each building in turn. There's the shack, the tavern, medical shed and the store. Tier 2, we have the residence, infirmary, the pub, and the guard tower, or the guard house, I should say. And then we have the apartment complex. So now we have all of the resources. Tier 1, we have the field camp, gathering camp, well, pit, basic mine, apiary, farm, and kale yard. Tier 2, we've got the resource camp, water pump, mining facility, orchard, barn, oil pump, and Tier 3, we have advanced water pump, quarry, mine 3, and the greenhouse. Some of these are quite large, so you're getting into some bigger stuff here now. So let's actually have a look at the individual buildings. So there's the field camp, gathering camp, and the well. So these are the things that are available to you once you've laid down your main hall. And you've got your pit. That's what it can gather. Then you've got your basic mine. Your apiary obviously produces honey. Farm gives you a choice of either grain or linen. And your kale yard, which allows you to grow either vegetables or herbs. Go to Tier 2. So we've got the resource camp. Then you have the advanced, you've got the water pump. Then we've got the mining facility. Obviously, different categories of ore that it can process. Have an orchard, gives you the choice of growing fruit or wood, logs. And then you have the barn, which gives you the option of producing meat or dairy products. And then Tier 3, now we've got the advanced water pump. Got the quarry. Again, this will gather or collect clay, stone, or sand. Mine 3. Again, with the different ore products it can process. And the greenhouse, which will allow you, again, to produce vegetables or herbs. Okay, so now we move on to the production buildings. These are all the production buildings available. We have Tier 1, lumber mill, soup kitchen, forge, smith, small work hall, kiln, and tailor. Tier 2, we have the sawmill, kitchen, smelter, metalworks, bakery, distillery, and the general workshop. And finally, Tier 3, we have the petrol refinery, community kitchen, industrial forge, metal processing complex, advanced distillery, industrial kiln, the factory, and the tubule cavern. So let's have a look at the buildings a little bit closer. So here's your lumber mill. And effectively this will allow you to produce lumber or paper. Then you've got your kitchen. This will allow you to produce simple meals and what are they called? Fair meals. So simple meal and a fair meal. Then we have the forge. This will obviously allow you to produce bars or ingots from the ore you collect in your mines. Then we've got the smith, produces basic tools and wire. Then we've got the small work hall. This will allow you to produce herbal tea, tanned leather and mead. Then we've got the kiln, which will allow you to produce bricks, glass and cement. And we have the tailor. They'll allow you to produce clothes, obviously, and workwear. Tier 2, pardon me, Tier 2 buildings. So now we move from the lumber mill to the sawmill. Again, they'll allow you to produce lumber and paper. And you can see there's a question mark. This is obviously going to be something they're developing in the game for later on. Then we've got the kitchen. Again, it will allow you to produce a simple meal, a fair meal, and now the third one, which is the filling meal. The smelter, your upgraded forge. It will still produce iron and copper, but it now also produces, so iron, copper, but it also produces bronze and tin ingots. And then we've got the metalworks. So again, another upgrade to the smith. So it will still produce basic tools and wire, but now you can get steel, motors and engines. Bakery. This is the stuff that supplies your shops for your residential areas. So you can produce this herbed garlic bread, fruit pies, or toddler formula. Your distillery. Just have a look so you can see it. So this produces alcohol. This is for medications and such like. So alcohol, medicine and drink for your pubs and taverns. And then we've got a general workshop. Again, we'll have a look around so you can just see it. This produces power tools, tinned rations, supplies, precision tools and machinery. Machinery takes ages to build, and you need quite a few of them for some of the bigger assets a bit later on in the game. And then tier 3, we've got the petrol refinery. Which will produce diesel and rubber. When you have a look here, if you can see there on the diesel just here, you can see a byproduct is asphalt. So does it do that with rubber? No, so it only does it with diesel, so that will actually produce asphalt as well as a byproduct. Then you've got your community kitchen, which again provides the 3 different types of meals, but obviously the ingredients and the speed at which it produces, the amount at which they produce is different. You've got the industrial forge, which obviously is your upgrade from the smelter. Produces the same bars, but again produces more with less resources. And tin. Metal processing complex. Again, basic tools, wire, steel, motors and engines. Then you've got your advanced distillery. Again, alcohol, medicine and drink. Then you've got your industrial kiln. Again, bricks, glass, cement, and then the factory. Factory produces just these two things. So it'll produce machinery and your tinned rations. And again, you can see there's a question mark, so this is obviously for later development. And finally, we have this tubule cavern for producing tubers or mushrooms. Okay. Just so you know, when you're gathering mushrooms using a gathering camp in winter, mushrooms are unavailable. However, if you've got one of these caverns here, it produces mushrooms all year round. And that is all of the production buildings available in the game at this moment in time. So now we move on to the penultimate group of buildings, the utilities. Now, when we reach the utilities, these are the first late game buildings that contain some unique buildings. So the first unique building we came across was the main hall. Okay, that was the very first building we built, and it's the only time we can produce that particular building. Well, there are a couple of unique buildings in the utilities, and I'll explain those as we go through. So here we are in utilities. So let's look at the tier 1 buildings. So tier 1, we have stockpile, cemetery, I should say cemetery 1, windmill, scouts guild. This is a unique building, and the technical boot camp. Tier 2, we have storehouse, cemetery 2, the wind turbine, the maintenance building. This is also a unique building, a coal generator, and a lightning arrestor. And tier 3, we have the warehouse, a communication hub. This is a unique building, but it's also a bit complicated because it ties in with the Scouts Guild. I'll explain that a bit later. Then we have the vocational training centre, the diesel plant, the recycling facility, and then we have the bunker. Now the bunker is a very big part of the end game. It's a unique building, but it's a whole thing on its own. So I'm not going to have that here. I'll actually put the bunker as a unique building so you can see that at the end of after I've done the logistics buildings, or the logistics resources that are available. Okay, so that's tier 3. So let's look at the buildings. So first one here is our stockpile. This is our first sort of storage upgrade. Very important to develop your research to be able to create stockpiles as soon as possible right at the beginning of the game, because you'll very quickly accumulate resources, and if you don't have enough room to stockpile them or to store them, basically as you're gathering them, they'll just disappear into the ether and they're gone. So the sooner you can get a stockpile up and running, the sooner you can start to store more and more product or resources. Then we have the cemetery. Next, we've got your windmill. This is your first item or your first building construction that will produce electricity. There's the Scouts Guild. Okay, so when I was saying before in the utilities, in the tier 3, you have the communication hub. If I click on that to try and build it, it just takes me to the Scouts building. So I'll do that again. It just takes me there, and I can't upgrade it because in this particular game I already built it once over there and I upgraded it, so it won't allow me to do that a second time. But what I will do is, once I've gone through these, I'll get rid of the Scouts hut and I'll build the communication hub just so you can see the two separate buildings. So there's the Scouts Guild, and then the last tier 1 building is the technical boot camp. And effectively what you can do in the technical boot camp is turn your ordinary workers into craftsmen. Okay, you can see if I fill all those slots, you can see there is a cost to actually training them up, and depending during the game, one of the options that you choose when it's presented to you as part of the campaign will determine how much success these workers will have in training to become craftsmen. Okay, so tier 2, we're now up to a storehouse, which obviously is the bigger version of the stockpile and does exactly the same thing, except obviously it's got a bigger capacity. Then we come to Cemetery 2. Now, I don't understand the difference between Cemetery 1 and Cemetery 2. Cemetery 1 has 64 spaces. Cemetery 2 has 64 spaces. The difference is it costs a lot more in resources to build Cemetery 2, the second tier cemetery, than it does the first one. I've also found that you don't need to keep producing more and more and more and more cemeteries. What you can do is, let's say for example, build 4, and then once 3 of them are full and the 4th one starts to fill up, you can just delete the first 3 and build 3 new ones, and that will find that it just keep recycling that, and that will keep the game happy. There's no facility like a crematorium or anything like that to dispose of the bodies. It's basically you bury them, it takes up all that space, and then once it's full, delete it, build an empty one. Okay, continuing with the tier 2, we have the wind turbine, which again is just an upgrade of your windmill. And we have the maintenance building. This is, as we say, a unique building, and effectively it's to prevent all your other buildings just blowing up or catching fire and such like. You can see here it says this construction list. When you build multiple buildings, you can select what order you want them to be built in, or you can pause the construction and start it later. And if you click on the maintenance tab, you can see you have 3 levels of maintenance. So essential maintenance, which is the minimum, obviously medium, which is a happy sort of middle ground, and then full, which is that full on maintenance. But you can see the difference in costs, in resources, but it's the same staff. So it's the same workforce regardless of what level. It's just the resources for the maintenance that increases. And then then we've got the coal generator, and then we have this. I'll just scroll out so you can see the whole thing. Big massive tall spire, a lightning arrestor, which effectively during the game a lot of your buildings will get struck by lightning. So this obviously acts as a lightning rod, and as you build these around, they'll protect your buildings from being struck by lightning. So then we come on to tier 3, and we have the warehouse. Again, your top level storage. Then we've got the vocational training centre, which is an upgrade to your technical boot camp. So this will do the same thing in that you can train. There we go, right. So, and you can see here now that's showing the actual area of effect for that lightning arrestor. So anything built within that area should be protected from lightning. So you'll have to dot them around all over your city. So yes, so back to the vocational training centre. So this will allow you to train your ordinary workers into craftsmen, but then you see now this other tab is available. It will now allow you to train your craftsmen into specialists. And again, when you do that, it says there's not enough resources. Have we got one? No, we don't have one. I'm not going to go into that now. again, there will be a cost per specialist you want to train, and also you have that success and failure rate to contend with. Then we have the diesel plant, another electrical producer or electricity provider. And then finally we have the recycling facility for water. So before I actually come out of the utilities, I'm going to delete the Scouts Guild, and I will build the communication hub. You can see now it will allow me to build it. So we'll let the game just run through quickly till it builds that. So we don't have enough glass. Alright, so it's all the construction needs have now been met, so that should actually start. Is this the construction man? No, it wasn't. Oh, here we go. This guy here. Looks like it. Nope. Oh no. Somebody will turn up eventually and start building it. Oh, here we go. This fella. Or woman. And off they go. And now it should start construction. There's the other resources coming in to help. And so there you go. There's your communication hub, which effectively you'll build your Scout Guild and then you'll upgrade it with the communication hub. So other than the bunker, that is all of your utility buildings. Okay, so the last group we need to look at is logistics. Basically, logistics is the process of moving and storing goods efficiently from one place to another, in a nutshell. So these are the tools that we're given. So in front of us, you can see I've set up a few buildings so I can show the examples of how the logistics within the game works. And the things that are available to us are small roads, we've got highways, we've got railroads, and we've got a conveyor belt system. So if we open up the logistics tab, so there are only 2 tiers of logistic assets available to us. The 3rd tier tab is empty, so there's nothing there, and the 2nd tier tab has got empty space on it as well. So first tier, we've got a dusty road, a cobblestone road, a central freight system. This is a unique building, so I've got one built here, so I can't build one anywhere else. We've got district freight depot, a road highway, crossroads, a T intersection and a Y intersection. On tier 2 we have conveyor belts, a belt merger, a belt separator, railway and a train station, and the train station is also a unique building. So how does it work? So if we go back to the first tier, the most basic form of logistics we've got would be that we have somewhere to gather some materials or resources, somewhere to store it, and an end user to basically use whatever it is to produce a finished product. So the logistics of this would be to build a road, and we would build a road from here to here, and then of course we would build a road from here to here. Is that efficient? Well, not if they wanted to take it from the source straight to the kitchen. Of course, then all we would do then is just build a road from there across and join up to there. So that makes it efficient, more efficient to move products from one place to the other. And to upgrade it, we can actually just build over the road. Or you can click on the road and just upgrade. Oh. And upgrade it. I just clicked the wrong button, that was all. And you can upgrade the road. So that's the first scenario. So once the produce you're making starts to get a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, you're collecting loads of it on one side of your city and you want to get it to the other side of the city, you'll start using a large central freight station. And then dotted around the city at various points, you would have this, a district freight depot. Now you can see that when you click on the freight depots, they have a big blue square around them. That's their area of effect. And I'll just show you, for example, if I click on here, you can see that over here, this mine is actually inside that area. And if I click on the mine, I'll just select a resource. It's not doing anything at the moment. But you'll see now when we look on the workforce, it says it's got perfect freight handling. That's because it's within the area of effect of a freight depot. And the freight depot has the capacity to handle whatever goods the building is that it's producing. Okay. So the freight depot would basically be picking up stuff from the large factories and the like, and then we would have to connect the freight, the central freight station to the freight depot. And this is where now, if we click on the logistics tab, we've got the road highway. And I'll just show you very quickly. We can click and curve, or we can drop wherever we want to. So I'll just do a small curve like this here. And then I shall put down, let's say, a little T-junction or a T-intersection. Rotate it so it's facing the right way. And then we would connect that. Actually, I think it might be a bit too close on reflection, but I think you'll get the idea of what it is we're doing. And then we would build, so one road then could come off here and go off to wherever it is. There's another depot, and obviously one highway could be coming out here. That would go into a crossroads. Road highway could be coming out like this, and then it could split into two different highways, and I'm absolutely certain you get the idea of what it is we're talking about here. And there you go, and there's your connection from your central freight station to your district freight depot. Then obviously, once the freight depots have collected a large amount, and let's say you want to ship it to an outside source or an outside customer, then you'd have a railway station. And if we go to the second tier now, you can see we've got the railway line, and we could do the same thing with the railway line to wherever we need to ship our goods to, or transport our goods to. In the game, I haven't set this up yet, but in the game it says that you can set up railroad connections to outside connections to other places that you have possibly in the world map. So for example, in my world map here, I've got all of these places that I'm getting resources from, and it says you can connect a rail line to outside connections. That's something I'll do when I actually get into the whole railroad thing, in the same way when I do a video about all of this freight. Finally, and I'm going to do a bigger separate video on this as well, we've got the conveyor belt system. Conveyor belt systems work with factories, basically, all of your heavy duty resource makers and collectors. And what you'll see, for example, so what I've done here, we've got an ore deposit underground. We've researched the ore, and then I've built on this this extension here. Now what you'll notice is, if you zoom on it, it's got this little blue arrow that points out away from the structure. Here I've built a large mine that's going to basically collect all the ore from that ore deposit, and you can see this one has two. It's got one orange arrow going in and one blue arrow coming out. Next, we've got an industrial forge, and again, one orange going in, one blue coming out. And finally, over here, I've got a large processing complex, a metal processing complex, and again, it's got one input, one output. Okay, so when we come to build the conveyor system, you don't actually need to click on the logistics and click on the conveyor belt, okay? All you need to do is move your cursor to one of the output arrows, and what you'll see is a little plus appears, okay? That means now we're actually on that node. Okay, so when the plus appears, you can click, and then when you drag, you can start to create your conveyor system. So now you can see here it's a bit all over the place. This is because I've got snapping on at the moment, snap to grid. If I press the tab bar, now you can see I can sort of free form where I want to start to create my conveyor belt. Now we want to connect out from here, and we want to go in to here. And you can see it's not possible. It's red, won't allow us to do it. So basically you just have to construct your conveyor system, and you can see that the end of the conveyor here is pointing off in the wrong direction. If we use the Q or the E keys, this will allow us to rotate it in the direction that we want it to head towards. So for example, I'm going to go this way, and then you left click, and then it produces that first part. Same again, we go to the end now of the conveyor. You can see the plus symbol, left click. I can drag it now where I want it to go and point it in the direction I want it to go. I want to go over that way. Left click. Okay. Now, the other thing is you can change the height of the conveyor by using the shift key and your mouse wheel. This becomes important when you start to run conveyor systems all together, and you can have one going under the other, one going over the other, and etc, etc. But again, I'll explain that in more detail in another video. So all I'm going to do here is let's come over to here, make sure we're pointing towards the input here, and then the final connection is I click on the output from the conveyor, and then as I move the cursor, not the end of the arrow, not the blue arrow you can see, but the actual cursor, as I move the cursor over the orange arrow, you should see it snap, So it's red, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then it's snapped there, you see. If I move it, you can see it snap into place. You click. That's now your conveyor belt connected from the source of the ore into the mine. Now, if I've got enough staff, so if I put 2 and 1, so that we've got enough people to actually make the thing operate. Okay, so if I just start the game up at normal speed now, what we should see is ore now coming along the conveyor belt, and obviously it's going to make its way over to the mine. So once the mine, let me just pause that again. So once the mine has pulled that ore out, the ore needs to be smelted into bars. So again, we shall come out from the mine. But it could be now that we might have two forges or 3 forges, yeah? And we want to connect all of them to the mine. So what we can do is, if we go into logistics here, you can see we've got a belt merger and a belt separator. Okay? So basically, if I get the belt separator, and you can see here now, it's got 1 orange input and 3 blue outputs. So we rotate it so that the input is in line with the output from the forge. And then we basically line it up roughly so that one of the outputs is in line going into... the input is in line with the output from the mine, and one of the outputs is in line with the input to the forge. So if I just roughly drop it there. So now I can connect the mine. And again, it snaps just like it did before. And then I can take the output from the splitter or the divider, wrong key, and put it directly into the forge. Then if I had other forges, I could just then run those out to 2 other forges. And then whatever product we have coming out from the mine would split into 3 and go to 3 separate facilities. So anyway, we've told the mine that it's processing, that it's digging up copper. So we now need to tell the forge that it's making copper ingots. And again, not sure I've got enough people. I think, no, it needs more. Anyway, I'm not going to set that up. So the other thing then is, what will happen is the ore will go into the forge will send out copper bars. So in the same way here, we had this splitter, we could split the bars to go to 3 other different facilities. But I won't bother with the splitter now. What I want to show you now is the belt merger. And basically this does the opposite thing. Instead of 1 coming in, 3 going out, this is now 3 coming in and 1 going out. So I'm going to drop that there. And what would happen is, for example, if we had 1 forge that was producing copper bars, copper ingots, and 1 forge that was producing tin ingots, we could have them both then going into 1 merger and sending both sets of bars to another forge, which could then forge bronze. Okay. So let's just connect. Let's just connect there to there. And then we would come out from here. Go in that general direction. and then we would go from there. And then, as I say, if we have this here now at the moment, let's have a look what we've got. So this, to make wire, it uses copper ingots. If we turn everything on, so if we look here now, it comes to this separator and it stops. And what you have to do at this point is click on the separator. You can see that all of the output sockets are numbered 1, 2 and 3. We want the copper to go out on number 3. So if we come down to here, click on 3, select copper ore. If we had people in there, that would now direct the copper into here. And the same thing with all of them. We could, for example, have it so that this one is only sending out, would only accept tin, and this one would only accept iron. And you can choose what product you want to come in or go out on those particular separators. But again, I'll do a more in-depth video with the conveyor system because it can get a little bit complicated. But that's generally the idea of how all of the logistics items work and how we link everything up using those. So finally we come to the bunker. Now the bunker is unique in a number of ways. First of all, it's a unique building, so you can only build it once. But secondly, it's not just a building where you build it and you can upgrade it a couple of times and then it's reached its sort of maximum and it does something. This building is part of the end game and part of the campaign. Now, I don't want to go into those details because I don't want to ruin that part of the game. No spoilers, all that sort of thing. All I want to do is just quickly put it down, show the first levels of construction, and once it gets to its basic construction, I shall stop it there because then there's a lot more to do after that. And again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I'll just show what it looks like in its principal sort of state and the state that it's going to be in for most of the game until you actually do all the things you need to do. So the bunker is found in the utilities here. It's got a very large footprint. We'll build it next to that road and off we go. Now when we come to build it, you'll notice here there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and you can see it takes a lot of workers to actually man it. So there's 40 in total, so you have to develop them all or train them up so that they can go in and run the place. Okay, it takes a lot of resources as well. So for phase 1, it's just taking the low level. But as we progress through the phases, I'm going to speed it up so you can see this. As we progress through the phases, it basically takes more and more resources. So there's not really a lot for me to say, apart from you just watch and you can see what's going to happen. And then I will stop it at the point where I don't want to go any further and spoil it for anybody. So if you want to see the completed building, you can fast forward or speed up or watch it, but I'll speed up now through its completion, and you'll see it go through the different phases until we get to the last point where we say we'll finalize its construction. So now you can see here it says all phases complete, wrap up construction and start operating the bunker. So if we click this, we come to this screen, and effectively now that's your bunker constructed, or the upper part of the bunker, and then obviously you're going to move on to the rest of it. But effectively all I wanted to show was the bunker and what it looks like as the final building in all of the buildings left in the game. Okay, again, no spoilers. I don't want to tell you what else to do. I can do that in a separate video later on, so if you want to watch that video, that's fine. But so you don't know any more about it and you can enjoy the game, as it were, that's as much as I'm going to say. And that is all of the buildings in the game currently at this date. It's December 2024, and obviously as they develop the game, more buildings are going to become available, at which time I'll make a video showing the other buildings that have been added to the game. Thank you for watching. Okay, that's all for now. If you liked the video, then leave a like. If you didn't like the video, then leave a dislike. Either way, leave a comment, suggestion or any questions you may have in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss any of my future content. Once again, thanks for watching.